I stared at my phone screen in complete disbelief, reading the group text message that just shattered my world into a million pieces. "We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely." The words came from our family group chat, sent by my mother Patricia, but I knew every single person had agreed to this brutal ultimatum. My father Donald, my sister Tracy, my brother Curtis, even my cousins who I'd helped through countless emergencies over the past 3 years. Uncle Gerald was the one who packed them up against me, poisoning their minds with lies I couldn't even imagine. My hands trembled as I typed back the only response that made sense anymore. "Of course I'll cancel my direct deposits first thing, and I just wanted to let you know." I sent the message and immediately opened my banking app, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and devastating sadness. 3 years ago, everything changed when I completed my coding bootcamp and landed a software engineering position at TechFlow Solutions in Austin, Texas. My starting salary of $85,000 felt like winning the lottery after years of scraping by on retail wages. But instead of celebrating my success, I watched my family struggle with mounting bills, medical expenses, and financial crises that seemed to multiply every month. The first time I helped was innocent enough. Mom called crying about a late mortgage payment that would trigger foreclosure proceedings. $2,800 felt manageable for someone with my new income, so I quietly transferred the money and told her to consider it a gift. Dad's diabetes medication cost $600 monthly after insurance, creating an impossible choice between his health and basic household expenses. Again, I stepped in without fanfare or expectation of gratitude. Tracy had graduated from State University with crushing student loan debt totaling $42,000. Her monthly payments of $450 consumed nearly half her teacher's salary, leaving her barely able to afford rent in her tiny studio apartment. When she mentioned considering dropping out of her master's program, I quietly took over her loan payments, telling her to focus on her education instead of financial stress. Curtis had always been mechanically gifted, but lacked the credit score to finance a reliable vehicle for his new construction job. His monthly car payment of $380 seemed reasonable when I co-signed the loan, especially knowing transportation meant the difference between employment and unemployment for him. Over 36 months, I calculated that I'd provided over $80,000 in direct financial support, not counting emergency loans, medical bills, car repairs, and countless smaller crisis interventions. I never kept detailed records because helping family felt natural and necessary, not transactional. But Uncle Gerald saw things differently. At 58 years old, Gerald owned Morrison's Auto Repair, a struggling business that barely kept him afloat, despite 40 years in the automotive industry. When he approached me 6 months ago, requesting a $50,000 investment to expand his shop, I politely declined, explaining that my financial commitments were already stretched thin, supporting immediate family members. Gerald's reaction shocked me. His face darkened with anger as he accused me of thinking I was too good for blue-collar work and suggested my college education had made me arrogant and condescending. I tried explaining that declining his business proposition had nothing to do with superiority or judgment. But Gerald stormed out of Mom's house, muttering about ungrateful family members who forget where they came from. What I didn't understand then was that Gerald had begun systematically poisoning every family relationship I cherished. He spent months planting seeds of resentment, telling Mom that my financial help came with strings attached and implied expectations. He told Tracy that I probably considered her teaching career beneath me and suggested my support was motivated by guilt rather than love. He convinced Curtis that my help emasculated him and prevented him from becoming truly independent. Gerald's masterful manipulation created doubt where none existed before. He twisted my quiet generosity into evidence of condescension, my reluctance to discuss money into proof of superiority, and my success into a weapon against family unity. Every conversation became poisoned with suspicion and misinterpretation. The devastating realization hit me as I scrolled through months of automatic payments, loan transfers, and emergency assistance. Gerald had orchestrated this family intervention, knowing exactly how financially dependent everyone had become on my support. He understood that cutting me off would create immediate chaos, hoping to force me into desperation and compliance with his demands. But Gerald had miscalculated something fundamental about my character. If my family wanted distance, they would get exactly what they asked for, along with complete financial independence. I spent the next 4 hours methodically dismantling 3 years of financial interconnectedness. My fingers moved across my laptop keyboard, with surgical precision canceling automatic transfers, removing my name from joint accounts, and terminating every financial obligation connecting me to people who apparently viewed my help as unwelcome interference. The mortgage payment scheduled for tomorrow morning canceled. Tracy's student loan autopay terminated. Curtis's car payment guarantee revoked through a call to the financing company. Dad's prescription assistance program that required my income verification discontinued. The family cell phone plan that I'd upgraded and paid for 18 months suspended. By Wednesday morning, exactly 48 hours after receiving their brutal ultimatum, reality began crashing down on my formerly grateful family members. Mom's phone rang at 7:30 a.m. with Wells Fargo's automated foreclosure acceleration notice. Her mortgage, already 60 days behind, before I started helping, would proceed to auction within 90 days unless she provided immediate payment of $8,400 to bring the account current. The customer service representative explained that her previous payment arrangement had been voided due to failed automatic transfer attempts. Tracy discovered her student loan nightmare during her lunch break at Jefferson Elementary School. Navient's default warning email explained that her account would enter collections within 10 days, destroying her credit score and potentially affecting her teaching certification. The accumulated interest and penalties from missed payments totaled $6,300 on top of her regular monthly obligation. Curtis received the most immediate consequences. Mountain View Auto Finance called his construction site at noon, informing his supervisor that his truck would be repossessed within 72 hours unless he provided proof of insurance reinstatement and immediate payment of $1,140, covering 3 missed installments. Dad's diabetic medication crisis emerged Thursday evening when CVS Pharmacy refused to fill his prescription without payment. His insurance covered basic health care, but excluded specialty medications, leaving him facing a choice between $600 he didn't have or diabetic complications that could prove fatal. But the most shocking revelation came through a frantic phone call from Martha Gerald's wife of 32 years. Her voice trembled with panic as she explained something that made my blood run cold. "Blaine, honey, I don't know what Gerald told your family, but we're in serious trouble. The business is facing bankruptcy because Gerald borrowed heavily against future earnings, and he used your financial support of the family as collateral with suppliers. He convinced Anderson Parts and Wholesale that you were backing his business expansion through family investments." My hands gripped the phone tighter as Martha continued her devastating confession. "Gerald's been telling creditors that you're his silent business partner, using information about your income and credit score from family conversations to secure equipment loans and inventory financing. Without your indirect support, keeping the family stable, his entire house of cards is collapsing." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Gerald hadn't just manipulated my family's emotions. He'd been systematically stealing my financial identity to prop up his failing business. Anderson Parts had extended $60,000 in credit based on Gerald's claims about family business partnerships and guaranteed backing from successful relatives. When I demanded more details, Martha broke down completely. "Gerald's been lying to everyone, Blaine. He told Anderson Parts that you co-signed his business expansion loans and that your family's stable finances proved your commitment to supporting his operations. Now they're demanding immediate payment of $73,000, and Gerald's been trying to figure out how to force you into covering his debts." The scope of Gerald's deception expanded beyond simple family manipulation into potential federal crimes. He'd used my name, income information, and credit history without authorization to secure business financing. My reputation and financial standing had been weaponized against me by someone I'd trusted as family. As Thursday night turned into Friday morning, I realized Gerald's scheme was far more sophisticated than mere emotional manipulation. He'd created a financial trap designed to force my compliance through manufactured desperation, betting that family loyalty would override my rational judgment when faced with everyone's simultaneous crisis. But Gerald had underestimated something crucial about my character. I'd built my success through careful planning, ethical decision-making, and refusing to be manipulated by emotional blackmail. If he wanted to play games with my family's financial security, I was prepared to play by rules he never anticipated. My cousin Jessica called Friday evening, her voice heavy with guilt and confusion. At 26 years old, she'd always maintained neutrality in family conflicts, working as a nurse at Austin General Hospital and staying focused on her own responsibilities. But Gerald's manipulation campaign had finally reached her, and what she discovered horrified her. Blaine, I need to tell you something that's going to make you furious, but you deserve to know the truth. Jessica began her words careful and measured. Gerald's been systematically lying to everyone about you for months. He's been twisting every conversation, every gesture, every moment of generosity into evidence that you think you're better than the rest of us. She explained how Gerald had approached each family member individually, sharing carefully crafted stories designed to breed resentment. He told Mom that I'd complained about her financial irresponsibility and suggested her mortgage problems resulted from poor decision-making. He convinced Tracy that I'd described teaching as a waste of education and implied I was embarrassed by her career choice. Gerald told Curtis that you called construction work manual labor for people without ambition. Jessica continued, her voice thick with disgust. He claimed you'd said Curtis would never amount to anything without your financial support. None of it was true, but Gerald presented everything as direct quotes from conversations he claimed to have had with you. The systematic nature of Gerald's psychological warfare became clear as Jessica detailed months of careful manipulation. He'd studied each family member's insecurities and crafted specific lies designed to trigger maximum emotional response. Mom's financial anxiety, Tracy's imposter syndrome about her education, Curtis's pride in his skilled trade work, Dad's health concerns about being a burden. Gerald had weaponized every vulnerability against me. But Jessica's most devastating revelation involved Gerald's technological espionage. His 24-year-old son, Kyle, worked as an IT specialist for a small Austin company and had inherited his father's manipulative tendencies, along with advanced technical skills. Gerald had convinced Kyle to install monitoring software on family members' phones during casual visits, claiming he was protecting them from online scams. Kyle's been reading everyone's text messages for months. Blaine, Jessica whispered, clearly terrified of the implications. Every conversation you've had with Mom Tracy Curtis, or Dad, has been forwarded to Gerald within hours. He's been using your private messages to anticipate your responses and manipulate family reactions in real time. The violation felt like being emotionally stripped naked. Gerald had read my worried texts about Dad's diabetes management, my encouraging messages to Tracy about her teaching career, my proud responses to Curtis's construction milestones, and my loving check-ins with Mom about her mortgage stress. He'd taken my most vulnerable family communications and twisted them into weapons against the relationships I cherished most. Gerald's been planning this family intervention for weeks. Jessica continued, her voice breaking with emotion. Kyle showed me text screenshots where Gerald bragged about controlling that arrogant college boy and forcing you to learn your place in the family hierarchy. He actually laughed about how easy it would be to manipulate you through family guilt once everyone turned against you simultaneously. Jessica's final revelation destroyed any remaining doubt about Gerald's criminal intentions. Gerald's been forging documents, Blaine. Kyle found paperwork where Gerald listed you as his business partner without your knowledge or consent. He's been using your credit score and income information from family conversations to secure business loans, planning to pressure you into compliance through family manipulation when the bills came due. The sophisticated nature of Gerald's scheme became undeniably clear. This wasn't simple family conflict or misunderstanding. It was systematic identity theft, wire fraud, and emotional manipulation designed to financially enslave me through manufactured family crisis. Gerald had spent months studying my personality, anticipating my reactions, and preparing contingency plans for every possible response, except the one I'd chosen: complete financial disconnection. "Jessica, I need you to understand something," I said, my voice steady despite my rage. "Gerald has committed serious federal crimes. Identity theft, wire fraud, invasion of privacy, and financial manipulation aren't family disputes. They're criminal offenses that carry decades in federal prison. Kyle is an accessory to multiple felonies, whether he understands it or not." The silence on the phone stretched for nearly 30 seconds before Jessica spoke again. "What are you going to do, Blaine?" "I'm going to make sure Gerald faces the full consequences of his choices," I replied. "But first, I need to protect myself and anyone else he might be targeting. This isn't about family anymore. It's about stopping a criminal before he destroys more lives." Saturday morning, I contacted my friend Marcus Chen, a federal prosecutor who'd graduated law school 2 years ahead of me at University of Texas. Marcus specialized in white-collar crime and had built his reputation prosecuting complex fraud cases involving identity theft and financial manipulation. "Blaine, what you're describing isn't just family drama," Marcus said, after reviewing the documentation I'd compiled. "Gerald's actions constitute multiple federal felonies: aggravated identity theft, under 18 U.S.C. 1028, wire fraud, under 18 U.S.C. 1343, and computer fraud under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Kyle's involvement in electronic surveillance adds conspiracy charges and potential RICO violations if this pattern extends beyond your family." Marcus explained that Gerald's use of my personal financial information to secure business loans qualified as aggravated identity theft, carrying a mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years in federal prison. The wire fraud charges stemmed from his electronic communications with lenders using falsified information about our alleged business partnership. Kyle's phone monitoring activities violated federal wiretapping statutes, regardless of his claimed intentions. "The evidence Kyle collected actually works against them," Marcus continued with grim satisfaction. "Electronic surveillance of family members creates a paper trail, demonstrating premeditation and conspiracy. If Kyle kept copies of intercepted communications, that evidence proves Gerald's systematic manipulation campaign." While Marcus initiated preliminary federal investigations, Gerald's financial house of cards continued collapsing at accelerated pace. Anderson Parts and Wholesale had discovered discrepancies in Gerald's loan applications and demanded immediate verification of his claimed family business partnerships. When they contacted me directly, I provided sworn statements denying any business relationship with Gerald and explaining that my personal information had been used without authorization. The ripple effect spread throughout Gerald's supplier network. Morrison Auto Parts. Gerald's primary inventory source had extended $90,000 in credit, based on Gerald's false claims about family financial backing. Texas Equipment Leasing had approved a $47,000 hydraulic lift financing arrangement, contingent on family guarantee provisions that didn't exist. Gerald's web of lies was unraveling simultaneously across multiple business relationships. But the most devastating revelation emerged when Anderson Parts shared their complete file on Gerald's loan applications. He'd submitted falsified bank statements, showing regular deposits from family business operations, fabricated tax returns, claiming business partnership income, and forged letters allegedly from me, confirming investment commitments and financial guarantees. Gerald's been running this scam for over 18 months, Marcus revealed after reviewing the Anderson Parts documentation. These loan applications show a pattern of systematic fraud that predates your family conflict by more than a year. He's been building this scheme gradually, using increasing amounts of your personal information as he gained confidence in his ability to manipulate family relationships. The criminal investigation expanded when Marcus discovered similar fraud complaints against Gerald from other Austin area businesses. Morrison Electronics had filed a civil lawsuit seeking $23,000 Gerald owed for computer equipment purchases, backed by allegedly false financial guarantees. Capital City Supply reported suspicious payment patterns and questioned the legitimacy of Gerald's claimed business partnerships. Gerald's reputation in Austin's small business community was disintegrating as word spread about potential fraud investigations. The Better Business Bureau had received multiple complaints questioning Gerald's business practices and financial integrity. Local automotive trade associations were quietly warning members about potential issues with Morrison Auto Repair's creditworthiness and business ethics. Meanwhile, my family members were discovering the true scope of their financial dependence and the artificial nature of their recent hostility toward me. Patricia had spent 3 sleepless nights trying to calculate mortgage payment options without my support, finally understanding that foreclosure was inevitable unless she found immediate employment or financial assistance. Tracy faced the reality that her teaching salary couldn't cover both basic living expenses and student loan payments without additional income sources. Curtis confronted the hardest truth. His construction job barely provided subsistence wages, and losing his truck would eliminate his transportation to work sites, creating a downward spiral toward unemployment and homelessness. Dad's medical situation was becoming desperate as his prescription medications ran out, and his diabetes symptoms worsened without proper pharmaceutical management. But the family's emotional awakening was just beginning. Martha's frantic phone calls had revealed Gerald's elaborate deception, and family members were starting to compare stories, realizing how extensively they'd been manipulated. The group text that had destroyed our family relationships was beginning to look less like unanimous family decision and more like coordinated psychological warfare. The turning point came when Kyle, overwhelmed by guilt and legal implications of his technological crimes, made a decision that would destroy his father's carefully constructed manipulation campaign forever. Kyle Morrison sat in his Honda Civic outside my apartment complex for 2 hours, Sunday evening, gathering courage to face the consequences of his technological crimes. At 24 years old, he understood computers better than human psychology and had allowed his father's manipulation to override his moral judgment. When he finally knocked on my door, his face was pale with shame and terror. "Blaine, I need to show you something that's going to destroy my family, but I can't live with myself if I don't." Kyle began, his voice shaking, as he pulled out his laptop. "I recorded a conversation with my dad that proves everything Jessica told you is true, and it's so much worse than you know." The audio recording Kyle played lasted 17 minutes and captured Gerald in his most unguarded moment, bragging to Kyle about his sophisticated manipulation campaign against me and our family. Gerald's voice was filled with pride and satisfaction as he described his psychological warfare tactics. That arrogant college boy thought he was so smart with his fancy job and his generous handouts. Gerald's recorded voice sneered. "But I've been playing chess while he was playing checkers. Every text message, every phone call, every family conversation. I've been 3 steps ahead, turning his own generosity against him." Gerald's confession detailed how he'd studied my personality for months, identifying my deep family loyalty as the primary weakness he could exploit. He'd calculated that I would rather suffer financial manipulation than allow family members to face homelessness, medical crises, or educational setbacks. The beauty of my plan is that I turned his strength into his weakness. Gerald continued on the recording. His love for family became the rope I used to hang him with. Every dollar he spent helping them made them more dependent and gave me more leverage to control his decisions. Kyle's face contorted with disgust as his father's voice revealed the true depth of his criminal enterprise. Gerald described forging my signature on business documents using my credit score information to secure loans, and planning to frame me for business failures if his manipulation tactics didn't force my compliance with his financial demands. If the family pressure doesn't break him down, I've got backup plans. Gerald's recorded voice explained with chilling calculation. I've got loan documents with his forged signature that I can use to prove he committed to business partnerships. I can destroy his credit, ruin his reputation, and force him to pay my debts or face federal fraud charges himself. The recording captured Gerald's complete lack of remorse or family loyalty. He described family members as useful idiots and emotional weapons in his campaign against me. He laughed about Tracy's teaching. Salary mocked Curtis's construction work and referred to Patricia's mortgage struggles as perfect leverage material. But the most devastating portion of the recording revealed Gerald's long-term intentions. His manipulation campaign against me was just the beginning of a broader scheme to control and exploit successful family members. He'd been researching Jessica's nursing salary and planning similar financial manipulation tactics against her if his campaign against me proved successful. Kyle, you need to understand what this recording represents, I said after listening to the complete confession. Your father isn't just committing crimes against me. He's systematically destroying our entire family for personal profit. Every relationship, every moment of trust, every expression of love has been weaponized in service of his greed and resentment. Kyle broke down, completely sobbing as he realized the full implications of his participation in Gerald's crimes. I thought I was helping him protect the family from financial scams, but I was actually helping him run financial scams against the family. I gave him access to everyone's private communications, their personal information, their vulnerabilities. I helped him destroy the people I love most. The recording spread through our family like wildfire. Kyle sent copies to Patricia, Tracy, Curtis, Donald, and Jessica, simultaneously accompanied by a lengthy confession detailing his role in Gerald's surveillance and manipulation campaign. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Patricia called me at 11:47 p.m. Sunday night, sobbing hysterically as the full scope of Gerald's betrayal became clear. Blaine, honey, we've been so wrong about everything. Gerald played us against you, like instruments, and we were too stupid to see it. How could we have believed his lies, when your actions always showed how much you love us? Tracy's response came through a voice message, recorded at 2:15 a.m. Monday morning. I feel so ashamed and disgusted with myself. Gerald convinced me that your help came with judgment and condescension. But listening to this recording makes me realize the only judgment and condescension came from him. You never made me feel small or inadequate. You always built me up and supported my dreams. Curtis drove to my apartment complex at 6 a.m. Monday morning and sat in his truck until I came outside for my morning run. His face was red with rage and shame as he struggled to find words for his betrayal of our brotherhood. Gerald turned me into someone I hate, Blaine. He made me suspicious of the person who's always had my back, who never asked for anything except the chance to help me succeed. I don't know how to apologize for being so blind and stupid. Donald's reaction was the most devastating. At 61 years old, he'd always prided himself on being a good judge of character and a protective father. Gerald's manipulation had turned him into an instrument of emotional abuse against his own son. The guilt and shame triggered a mild heart attack Monday afternoon, landing him in Austin General Hospital with chest pains and elevated blood pressure. The family gathered in Donald's hospital room Monday evening, creating an impromptu intervention focused on accountability and truth. Patricia, Tracy, Curtis, and Jessica took turns acknowledging their role in Gerald's manipulation campaign and begging my forgiveness for their betrayal of family loyalty. Gerald didn't force us to send that cruel text message. Patricia said, her voice heavy with self-reflection. He planted seeds of doubt and resentment, but we chose to believe his lies instead of trusting our own experiences with you. We chose suspicion over love, and that choice nearly destroyed the best relationship in our family. The hospital room conversation lasted 4 hours, and covered 3 years of misunderstood intentions, manipulated communications, and artificial conflicts. Each family member shared how Gerald had approached them individually, with carefully crafted lies designed to poison their perception of my character and motivations. But the most important revelation came from Donald himself. As he lay in his hospital bed, connected to heart monitors and IV tubes, he looked directly at me and spoke the words that began our family's healing process. "Son, I failed you as a father. I allowed a jealous, manipulative man to convince me that your success somehow diminished my worth, and your love somehow came with conditions. I forgot the most important truth about family love isn't about control or manipulation. It's about support and trust." Gerald exploited my insecurities to turn me against the person who exemplifies everything I tried to teach you about character and integrity. As Monday night turned into Tuesday morning, our family began the difficult process of rebuilding trust and communication. But Gerald's criminal behavior was just beginning to face the consequences it deserved. Tuesday morning brought federal agents to Morrison Auto Repair with search warrants, arrest warrants, and evidence collection equipment. Special Agent Sarah Rodriguez of the FBI's Financial Crimes Task Force had been building the case against Gerald since Marcus first contacted federal prosecutors with documented evidence of identity theft and wire fraud. Gerald's arrest at 9:30 a.m. created a spectacle that would be discussed in Austin's small business community for months. He was handcuffed in front of his remaining employees, his customers, and local news crews, who had been tipped off about the federal investigation. The charges read aloud during his arrest included aggravated identity theft, wire fraud, computer fraud conspiracy, and money laundering. Kyle had volunteered complete cooperation with federal investigators, providing detailed testimony about his father's manipulation campaign and technological crimes. His recorded confession of Gerald bragging about the fraud scheme became the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. In exchange for his cooperation, federal prosecutors offered Kyle a plea agreement focusing on community service and restitution rather than federal prison time. The investigation's scope expanded dramatically as federal agents examined Gerald's business records, computer files, and financial transactions. Agent Rodriguez discovered that Gerald's fraud extended far beyond my family situation into a sophisticated criminal enterprise, targeting multiple victims across Central Texas. Gerald had been running variations of the same scam on other local families and business associates for nearly 3 years. He would identify successful family members or business partners, gather their personal information through social engineering and technological surveillance, then use that information to secure loans and credit lines, while planning to manipulate victims into compliance through manufactured crises. Mrs. Eleanor Morrison. Gerald's 78-year-old mother had been systematically robbed of her Social Security benefits and retirement savings. Gerald had convinced her to sign power of attorney documents, then diverted her monthly income to cover his business expenses. When federal agents discovered the financial abuse, Eleanor's checking account contained $12 after months of unauthorized withdrawals, totaling $23,000. The automotive parts suppliers who had extended credit based on Gerald's false claims about family business partnerships were cooperating fully with federal investigators. Anderson Parts provided detailed documentation showing how Gerald had forged business partnership agreements, falsified tax returns, and submitted fabricated bank statements to secure increasingly large credit lines. Texas Equipment Leasing revealed that Gerald had attempted similar fraud schemes with 3 other family-oriented small businesses, using the same pattern of false family guarantee claims and forged financial documents. The total amount of attempted fraud exceeded $200,000 across multiple victims and time periods. Gerald's criminal activities had also included tax fraud, as federal investigators discovered he'd been claiming false business deductions and unreported income for years. The Internal Revenue Service joined the investigation when they found evidence that Gerald had been hiding cash transactions and manipulating tax filings to avoid proper tax obligations. But the most shocking discovery came when federal agents examined Gerald's computer files and found detailed profiles on dozens of potential victims. Gerald had been researching successful family members throughout Austin's extended community, gathering personal information, financial data, and psychological profiles in preparation for future manipulation campaigns. Kyle's cooperation revealed that Gerald had been planning to expand his fraud schemes to target other successful relatives and family friends. Jessica's nursing career had made her a potential target, along with several cousins who worked in technology, healthcare, and finance throughout the Austin metropolitan area. The federal investigation also uncovered Gerald's connections to other fraudsters and identity thieves. He'd been participating in online forums where criminals shared techniques for family manipulation, technological surveillance, and financial fraud. His sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation had been developed through collaboration with other predators targeting family relationships. Gerald's business assets were frozen pending restitution calculations, but the auto repair shop was already financially destroyed beyond recovery. Years of mismanagement, fraudulent practices, and criminal behavior had left Morrison Auto Repair with over $300,000 in outstanding debts and virtually no legitimate assets. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. Kyle's recorded confession, federal surveillance evidence, victim testimony, and financial documentation created an ironclad criminal case that eliminated any possibility of successful defense. Gerald's court-appointed attorney advised him to accept a plea agreement rather than face trial and potential maximum sentences. On Thursday afternoon, Gerald Morrison pleaded guilty to 7 federal felony counts, including aggravated identity theft, wire fraud, computer fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, and elder abuse. The plea agreement required complete restitution to all identified victims and cooperation with ongoing investigations into related fraud schemes. Federal Judge Amanda Sullivan sentenced Gerald to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. He was ordered to pay full restitution, totaling $187,000 to victims, including my family, his elderly mother, and the business suppliers he had defrauded. Kyle received a sentence of 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and complete restitution for his role in the technological surveillance crimes. His cooperation with federal investigators and genuine remorse for his actions influenced the court's decision to focus on rehabilitation rather than incarceration. But the most important consequence of Gerald's criminal prosecution was the complete vindication of my character and the restoration of my family relationships. Every lie Gerald had told, every manipulation he had orchestrated, and every doubt he had planted was exposed as part of a systematic criminal enterprise designed to exploit family loyalty for personal profit. The federal investigation's findings were shared with all family members, providing complete documentation of Gerald's crimes and clearing my reputation of any wrongdoing. Patricia Tracy Curtis and Donald finally understood the true source of their manipulated hostility and the criminal nature of Gerald's psychological warfare campaign. Justice had been served, but the real work of rebuilding our family relationships was just beginning. Gerald Morrison began serving his 8-year federal prison sentence at Federal Correctional Institution Bastrop in January, surrounded by other white-collar criminals who had destroyed families and communities through financial fraud. His appeals were denied, his assets liquidated for victim restitution, and his reputation permanently destroyed throughout Central Texas business community. Kyle Morrison legally changed his surname to Henderson, honoring his grandmother Eleanor's maiden name, and symbolically rejecting his father's criminal legacy. He entered intensive therapy to address the psychological manipulation he'd experienced and learned healthy boundaries for family relationships. Kyle moved in with Eleanor to provide caregiving support and help her recover from Gerald's financial abuse. The transformation in Kyle was remarkable. He used his technological skills to develop security software protecting families from financial fraud and manipulation. His first-hand experience with criminal surveillance techniques made him uniquely qualified to help other victims recognize and prevent similar crimes. Kyle became a powerful advocate for elder abuse prevention and family financial protection. Eleanor Morrison recovered most of her stolen retirement funds through federal restitution payments and civil lawsuits against Gerald's co-conspirators. At 78 years old, she demonstrated incredible resilience and forgiveness, focusing on rebuilding her relationship with Kyle, rather than dwelling on Gerald's betrayal. Eleanor became a grandmother figure to our entire family, offering wisdom and perspective that helped heal generational wounds. My family committed to extensive family counseling with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a therapist specializing in financial abuse recovery and family communication repair. The counseling process required each family member to acknowledge their role in Gerald's manipulation campaign and take responsibility for rebuilding trust through consistent actions rather than empty promises. Patricia returned to work as an administrative assistant at Austin Community College, determined to regain financial independence and self-respect. She developed a structured budget with my guidance and gradually resumed responsibility for her mortgage payments. Patricia's pride in her financial recovery was evident as she made each monthly payment on time and began building an emergency fund for future security. Blaine, I need you to understand something, Patricia said during our first family dinner after months of separation. Gerald didn't force me to doubt your character. He simply exploited my insecurities and fears about being a burden to my successful son. I chose to believe his lies because they confirmed my worst fears about myself. But I've learned that true family love isn't about financial independence or pride. It's about supporting each other through difficulties while maintaining respect and communication. Tracy made the difficult decision to leave her teaching position temporarily and enroll in a master's program for educational administration. I agreed to support her transition with structured financial assistance that included written agreements, regular progress reviews, and clear expectations for communication and accountability. Tracy's determination to advance her career while maintaining family relationships demonstrated incredible maturity and growth. I realize now that Gerald poisoned my perception of your support by making me believe it came with judgment about my career choices. Tracy reflected during one of our rebuilt family conversations. But you never made me feel inadequate about being a teacher. You always encouraged my passion for education and supported my professional growth. I confused Gerald's condescension with your genuine care, and I'm sorry it took federal criminal charges for me to see the difference. Curtis started his own small landscaping business with structured mentorship and financial guidance from me. Instead of the unspoken financial dependency that Gerald had exploited, Curtis and I developed a formal business relationship with clear expectations, regular financial reviews, and gradual independence goals. Curtis's pride in building his business legitimately was obvious as he hired his first employee and secured his first major commercial contract. Gerald made me believe that accepting your help meant admitting I was a failure. Curtis explained as we reviewed his business plan. But I've learned that family support isn't about weakness or dependence. It's about using temporary assistance to build long-term strength and independence. You never tried to control my decisions or make me feel small. Gerald projected his own insecurities onto our relationship. Donald's health improved dramatically once the stress of family conflict and financial uncertainty was resolved. His diabetes became manageable with proper medication and reduced anxiety. Donald enrolled in community college business courses, determined to contribute to Curtis's landscaping company through bookkeeping and customer service support. "Son, I owe you an apology that goes beyond words," Donald said during one of our heart-to-heart conversations. Gerald exploited my fear of being a burden and my pride about providing for my family. He convinced me that your success somehow reflected my failures as a father, when the truth is that your character and generosity proved I had succeeded in raising a good man. I let jealousy and manipulation turn me against my greatest accomplishment as a parent. Jessica maintained her role as family mediator and emotional anchor throughout our recovery process. Her nursing background helped her recognize the psychological trauma that Gerald's manipulation had created and guide family members toward healthy communication patterns. Jessica's stability and wisdom became essential elements in rebuilding trust and preventing future manipulation attempts. 6 months after Gerald's imprisonment, an unexpected opportunity arose that would transform my career and family's future in ways none of us anticipated. Mrs. Helen Hamilton, my high school computer science teacher, contacted me after seeing news coverage of Gerald's fraud case and our family's recovery story. Mrs. Hamilton had founded TechGuard Solutions, a cybersecurity company specializing in protecting families and small businesses from financial fraud and identity theft. She offered me a partnership opportunity that aligned perfectly with my technical skills and personal experience with financial manipulation crimes. Blaine, your integrity under extreme pressure and your family's recovery story represent exactly the values I want TechGuard to embody, Mrs. Hamilton explained during our partnership meeting. We need someone who understands both the technological aspects of financial fraud and the emotional impact on families. Your experience makes you uniquely qualified to help other families prevent and recover from similar crimes. TechGuard Solutions grew rapidly as families and businesses throughout Texas sought protection from increasingly sophisticated financial fraud schemes. My partnership with Mrs. Hamilton combined my software engineering skills with first-hand knowledge of manipulation tactics, creating innovative security solutions that addressed both technological and psychological vulnerabilities. The business success exceeded our most optimistic projections. Within 18 months, TechGuard Solutions had expanded throughout the Southwest, helping hundreds of families protect themselves from financial predators. The company's profits allowed me to establish a family emergency fund that provided genuine security without creating unhealthy dependency relationships. Our first Christmas together, after Gerald's imprisonment, was profoundly different from previous holiday celebrations. Instead of expensive gifts that highlighted economic disparities, we focused on meaningful experiences and heartfelt expressions of gratitude. The gifts were thoughtful, rather than costly. Conversations were honest, rather than guarded, and love was expressed through respect rather than obligation. Patricia prepared her famous holiday tamales, a tradition that had been suspended during our family conflict. Tracy brought homemade apple pie and stories about her graduate program successes. Curtis surprised everyone with handcrafted wooden ornaments he'd made in his workshop. Donald led our family prayer with tears in his eyes, thanking God for second chances and restored relationships. The Christmas dinner conversation naturally turned to reflection on our journey through betrayal, manipulation, criminal prosecution, and ultimate reconciliation. Each family member shared lessons they'd learned about trust communication and the difference between healthy family support and toxic dependency. Gerald taught us what family isn't supposed to be, Patricia observed as we gathered around the fireplace after dinner. He showed us how love can be weaponized, how trust can be exploited, and how success can create resentment instead of celebration. But our recovery has taught us what family should be: a foundation of support that empowers individual growth while maintaining unconditional love. Tracy added her perspective on the educational value of our traumatic experience. I've learned that true family support enhances personal dignity rather than undermining it. Blaine's help with my student loans wasn't charity or condescension. It was investment in my potential and belief in my worth. Gerald twisted that generosity into evidence of superiority, but the truth is that supporting each other's dreams is the highest expression of family love. Curtis reflected on the difference between healthy interdependence and manipulative dependency. I thought accepting help meant admitting weakness, but I've learned that refusing help when it's offered with love actually demonstrates weakness. Strength comes from using temporary support to build permanent independence, not from struggling alone out of misplaced pride. Donald's contribution focused on the lessons of parenthood and legacy. Gerald's manipulation exploited my deepest fear that my son's success somehow reflected my failure as a provider and protector. But I've realized that raising a child who becomes generous, successful, and family-oriented represents the greatest achievement of my lifetime. Blaine's character is the legacy I'm proudest of, and supporting his happiness should be my priority, not competing with his accomplishments. The profound life lesson that emerged from our family's journey through betrayal and recovery centered on the difference between conditional and unconditional love. Gerald's manipulation had succeeded because it exploited conditional aspects of family relationships: pride, financial security, social status, and comparative success. But our recovery demonstrated the power of unconditional family love, based on acceptance, support, and genuine care for each other's well-being. True family relationships aren't about financial transactions, social hierarchies, or competitive achievements. They're about creating a foundation of trust and support that allows each person to pursue their potential while maintaining emotional connection. The most important insight was recognizing that family love requires boundaries to remain healthy. My previous financial support, while well-intentioned, had created dependencies that Gerald could exploit. Our rebuilt family relationships included clear communication, written agreements, and mutual accountability that protected everyone from manipulation while preserving genuine care and support. As we concluded our Christmas celebration, I realized that Gerald's criminal behavior had inadvertently strengthened our family by forcing us to examine our relationships, communication patterns, and fundamental values. The trauma of betrayal and manipulation had been devastating, but the recovery process had created deeper understanding, stronger boundaries, and more authentic love. The story of our family's journey from manipulation to redemption offers hope for anyone facing similar betrayal. Financial predators and emotional manipulators succeed by exploiting love, loyalty, and generosity, but they cannot ultimately destroy families built on genuine respect and communication. I want to leave you with this question. Have you ever experienced family relationships where love felt conditional or manipulative? And how did you learn to distinguish between healthy support and unhealthy dependency? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember to like this video if it resonated with your own family experiences. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. Please subscribe for more stories about overcoming family betrayal and rebuilding trust, and share this video with anyone who might benefit from understanding the difference between genuine family love and manipulative relationships. Remember that true family strength comes from supporting each other's growth while maintaining individual dignity and respect. No matter how complex or painful your family situation might be, there's always hope for healing when people choose honesty, accountability, and unconditional love over manipulation and control.